500,000 Israelis take to the streets after Israel's Independence Day to support Israel's government and to show their strong support for passing judicial reforms. In the words of one of the protesters at the rally, he said, "We are tired of being treated like second-class citizens." The U.S. Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, is visiting Israel right now and boldly declaring his unconditional support for the nation. I'm Josiah, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Welcome back to the show, guys. We are going to start off by talking about something that very significant that happened in Israel just end of last week, but has not been covered much in the mainstream media, definitely not in the U.S. media. The mainstream media in the United States has hardly ever, if even mentioned, been covered there. But they were, after Independence Day, so Independence Day was Wednesday of last week. So the day after, on Thursday, there was a massive, they called it the million-man rally in Jerusalem near the Knesset. Israelis from all over Israel came out to, they were hoping to get 1 million people, came out to support Israel's government, to show their support for Israel's government, and also to show their support and say, we want to pass judicial reforms, and we are for judicial reforms. Now, many media outlets have said that 600,000 Israelis, nearly 600,000 Israelis showed up to this event. Everybody was showing up basically saying, like you saw in the intro, that they're tired of being second-class citizens. They tired of the left always getting their way with these protests and stuff, and saying that there are tons, they call it the silent majority of Israel's voters that voted in the last election voted for the judicial reforms and for this government to happen. And so the things that this government is putting forward, yes, the silent majority of Israel supports that. So this is what they're saying. The organizers of the protest have said, as well as several other outlets, that nearly 600,000 people showed up, protesters showed up. Other outlets said that 200,000 showed up. It's not exactly, it's hard to tell exactly how many people came out, as we've saw with a lot of the left-wing protests in Tel Aviv over the last 4 months, to tell exactly how many people showed up to these rallies. But I think it's very likely that there was close to this number of protesters that actually showed up. The police declared in a statement that there were 200,000 protesters that were gathered at the start of the rally, or right when the rally was kicking off. The police said there were 200,000 people there. And then, as you can imagine, the night goes on, and for several hours, the protest takes place, and you have more and more people showing up, and with numbers coming out like 600,000. That's a lot of people gathered in one spot. According to what we have now, there were no confrontations with the police reported at all throughout this entire rally, which is, I think, is incredible, because these guys are showing that hey, we're law-abiding citizens. We voted for this government. We voted the government into power. And right now, the left is trying to hold them hostage and not let them accomplish anything that they've been trying to do in this new government. And we, as the voters, we realize we have to speak out now. We're coming out to speak out for what we actually want to happen in Israel, in the politics, and what we want to actually take place right now. And as you can see, we'll pull up this video here, but a lot of religious were in the crowd. I would say mostly religious from just the footage I watched that you can see. Religious Jews that were there protesting. There were a lot of children. People brought their families out. This is like a family event, saying, "Hey, we want life in this nation, and this is what we want. What we're voting." And not only were religious there, you can see quite a few. There were some secular Israelis in the crowd. It's not like this is just a religious movement, but it happens to be the opinion of most of the religious people in Israel is for these things that are taking place, as well as some secular Israelis as well. And even in this video, you can see here with the aerial, there's that night, and I think just thousands of people. You can see a sea of blue and white Israeli flags throughout the protesters, and then you can see that it's not just the people that are on these main streets. The mass of people you can see. There's in the parks, the trees right around there. You can see lights from people holding up their phone lights out there, and you can see those glimmering through the trees. So not only are the main stretch, the people that you can see in this aerial footage, but there's also thousands of people in the parks there, mostly covered up by the trees. So I do think it's very likely that the number 600,000 is very correct. Obviously, we do not know for sure how many people, but it doesn't really matter exactly the number. What does matter is there was a massive showing of support for Israel's government, saying we support the government and what is happening. And I think a lot of people that are very frustrated with the left-wing protests that have been happening, and Israel, specifically Netanyahu, capitulating to that government. So kind of, you could say these guys are tired of the squeaky wheel getting the grease with the far left, with all the protests. And then Netanyahu finally said, okay, we're gonna freeze, put a pause on all this legislation at least until after Passover, and we'll see what happens from now. But definitely great to see Israel's democracy thriving, where people are definitely voicing their opinions on both sides of the aisle. People that have opposing views, they're both coming out and saying this is what we want. And the main difference here is that the majority voted in this government, and this is what is being pushed through right now. All right, we're going to talk about in a second what the media had to say, or maybe what they didn't have to say about the protests. But first, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode of the Israel Guys. And if you hit that like button, we would really, really appreciate that. That really helps us get us out in the YouTube algorithm. Also, we're on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook. Make sure and head over. The links are in the description below, but you can head over there and follow us on all those platforms. We're putting out content every single day on all those platforms as well. So what did the media have to say about these protests? And we saw a lot of media covering the left-wing protests in Tel Aviv. And it wasn't just in Tel Aviv. It was across many more cities in Israel as well. But there was a lot of coverage, and mostly negative towards the current government with those protests in Tel Aviv and across Israel. So what do they have to say about this? And just doing a quick Google search, trying to find non-Israeli news networks that were talking about this. I really only saw like two, one from Reuters and one from the BBC, both of them kind of saying that there were I think both articles said there were tens of thousands of Israelis that came out to protest for the judicial reforms, which is rather hilarious because there were indeed hundreds of thousands of people. Tens of thousands definitely fits their narrative a bit better, but it is almost surprising, but it's almost not surprising that there wasn't much coverage of this, because anytime you have hundreds of thousands of protesters, right? Protests, that's like a big media story. Media loves stories like that to talk about protests and people protesting. But then I guess when you think about that, these guys were protesting in support of their government, that doesn't really fit the storytelling narrative of the mainstream media. You know, the stories where there's thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people protesting against the government, that's definitely a good, juicy media story. So I guess it didn't really fit the narrative of the mainstream media to talk about this much, and not surprising why. It's I find it kind of interesting when it comes to the media that the voice of the people matters unless the voice of the people stands for something that you disagree with. And I think that's indeed true with a lot of the media in this case, and especially with what's happening in Israel. And the voice of the people is standing against what the left wants and what the left is trying to push through as well. Join the Heartland Challenge. Now pick one item that you use on a regular basis and commit to only purchasing that item from Judea and Samaria. If you're wondering how in the world you can purchase products from Judea and Samaria, our friends at Blessed by Israel make it super easy for you. They source incredible boutique products from small businesses located in Judea and Samaria and ship those products straight to your doorstep. We've partnered with Blessed by Israel to promote the Heartland Challenge, encouraging supporters of Israel all around the world to commit to only using certain products from Judea and Samaria. So whether it's olive oil, tea, soap, ceramics, or something else, Blessed by Israel is encouraging everyone to buy what you believe in, and then share the message with your community and friends. It's time to build and invest in the heartland of Israel. Join the Heartland Challenge and start making a difference today. To find out more, go to blessedbyisrael.com. That's blessedbyisrael.com to find out more. If you use the code INVEST, INVEST, at checkout, you can get $5 off your first order. Link is in the description below. All right, so the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, is visiting Israel right now. He landed in Israel actually yesterday, which on Sunday, landed at Ben Gurion Airport and visiting with a whole bipartisan delegation to Israel. He has a whole scheduled plan. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But upon his arrival in Israel, his first statement on Israeli soil for this trip said, quote, "On behalf of our entire delegation, it is an honor to join you in Jerusalem to celebrate Israel's independence and to reaffirm the special bond between our nations." Kevin McCarthy definitely showing his great support for the nation of Israel, for the people of Israel, coming with this delegation. This is his first visit as the Speaker of the House Representatives of the United States. One of the first things he did, which is very significant after landing at Ben Gurion, was to go and visit and pray at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. He wrote in the guest book At the Wall, he said, quote, Israel, you are a blessed nation, and our shared values unite a bond that will never break. So him landing in Israel, coming first off to the Western Wall, was a great show of support and recognition of, because you kind of take it for granted. If you've ever been to Israel and been to the Western Wall, you take it for granted that that is a part of, a part of Israel. Most politicians across the world who come to Israel do not visit the Western Wall, and that is because the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian quote-unquote two-state solution, the Palestinians want that to be a part of their capital, Jerusalem, whatever. They want Jerusalem to be split. The Palestinians want that to be a part of it. So by politicians and delegations visiting the Western Wall, it definitely, when they're visiting Israel, it definitely shows that Israel, that is recognizing Jerusalem as a part of the state of Israel. So while he is in Israel, he is scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and also to address the Knesset. So the Knesset is convening for the first time since the Passover holiday and since Netanyahu suspended the judicial reforms several weeks ago. They'll be convening. Actually, today is the first convening of the Knesset, and the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, is scheduled to address Israel's Knesset. So what's interesting is that he's actually the second ever Speaker of the House to address Israel's Knesset, and it's also going to be 25 years since the last, first Speaker of the House addressed the Knesset in 1998. So pretty significant. Going to be giving an address sometime today, as we're recording Monday morning here in the land of Israel. This is really great to see Kevin McCarthy here with his whole delegation. It's a bipartisan delegation in Israel, really just declaring the U.S.'s bond of strength, bond with Israel, and strengthening Israel and declaring to Israel that the United States stands with Israel, as we've seen a large lack of that with the current administration in office in the United States. We've seen that it's great to see that there are a lot of U.S. politicians that are declaring their support. Ron DeSantis visited Israel last week and said some amazing things about the American-Israeli bond of unity, bond of strength and friendship there as well. So it's great to see, and I know that there are millions and millions of Americans that support Israel, that have that strong connection to Israel and want to see Israel thrive, want to be friends, want to be allies, and want to continue that strong strength and friendship between them as well. Guys, thank you for watching today. Put in the comments if you're an American that supports Israel. Write that in the comments. Tell us where you live and declare your support for the nation of Israel. Thanks for watching today. Make sure to subscribe and get the conversation going down below. Make sure to buy some beautiful products from the heartland of Israel. Go to blessedbyisrael.com. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.